Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Authorized Back and Sew in Fresno, California. And we are here for our Thumbs Up Thursday. Thank you. Yeah.
I was like, we're getting reverb over here, and it wasn't me this time.
But we have a special guest today that is going to share about Aurifil thread. So it's always great to tune in here because you're always going to learn something new. And I'm looking forward to it because Aurifil has different colored spools and they all mean something. So we're going to learn a lot. So
I love Aurifil.
Welcome to our show today. And if you need, take notes so you remember this, or you can go back and watch too. And our goal is, besides learning about the Aurifil thread, is to get 100 viewers.
100 people, come on.
Yes, if we can get 100 viewers, we are going to give away a $100 gift card. So make sure you like and share this page with your friends. Get them logged on.
Do it.
Yes, we have confidence in our viewers. So
what did we get up to last time, Barbie? 61?
61, yes.
I think it was 61.
So close.
Yeah.
So if we don't hit that 100, you're going to get a $50 gift card. So get going. So I would like to introduce our speaker today, which is Karen Miller. Welcome. And we'll let you take over on the Aurifil.
Yes.
Good morning. How are you today? Good?
Good. Yes. We're excited.
We're here in the Northeast where it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you guys are just early morning yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for having me. And Erin, if you would like to share, I put together a few slides to help folks learn a little bit more about Aurifil. So
nice.
Barbie and Eric, if I'm rambling on too much and you have some questions or you see some questions come through the chat, feel free to jump in there and just kind of say, whoa, Karen, slow down. You're going to find out that I can talk about thread until everybody is falling asleep tonight. So
how fun. I'm good at interjecting, so don't worry.
All right. That sounds great. So yes, I'm Karen Miller. I'm the master educator with Aurifil Threads. I've been doing this role for about 6 years. I also run a thread education program with Aurifil called Aurifilosophy, and the threads that you see on the screen right now are just 2 samples of the types of threads that we offer in that particular program that we're going to talk about that the shop has for all the customers. So we'll get going with that. If you have any questions, just drop them in there and we'll get going. Let me see if I can figure out how to change my slides. Hold on a second. You guys are training me again today. Hold on. Oh, there we go.
Aaron over there.
I just have to have the mouse on the right screen, and I think we'll get going. Just a little bit of preamble. Aurifil Thread, if you're not familiar with it, is a family-owned business. The family resides in Milan, Italy, and they use 100% Egyptian cotton thread to make their own Aurifil, to make their own threads. It's a little bit different than most other thread companies on the market because it's a family-owned business. So Aurifil oversees all the different components of the thread being prepared. It started about 40 years ago, really, with the need to have good quality thread for multi-head embroidery machines for their original company, which is still in existence, called Studio Origa, and that was in Italy. They were using someone else's thread and decided, oh my goodness, they're not happy with the quality of the thread they were using. So the owners decided to go out and source their own Egyptian cotton, figure out the entire production process, bring it all in-house, and have their own thread, which they've had now for about 40 years. Aurifil, as we know it, for quilters, packaged for quilters, is just about 25 years young. So it was 15 years after they were doing this for multi-head embroidery machines that they decided to repackage the thread for quilters because one of the daughters fell in love with quilting. So that's where I think a lot of us, I don't know if those of you that are out there watching today, if you use Aurifil, say, hey, we love our Aurifil thread and our machines love it too. And I hope to share some of the reasons why with you today. So one of the main reasons why is that the 15-step production process basically focuses on quality, getting high quality Egyptian cotton thread that's strong, is virtually lint free, has a wide range of colors and weights, which we're going to talk about today, and helps the customer, achieve brilliant results. And that's why I love Aurifil. I am not in the sales department. I'm in the education department. So I use Aurifil all the time for all of my projects. So I hope that you all do too. Oh,
Yes.
before we leave about 270 colors, let's look at this slide right here. This is the Aurifil swatch book, which I know you have in the shop. And this is a brand new swatch book that shows all the 270 colors. Isn't it beautiful?
Yes.
Pretty.
I like to just pick it up and pet it sometimes because
yes.
it actually has real thread wrapped around the swatch book.
Oh, that makes a difference.
Yeah, so you can match your colors better that way, right? And this new swatch book has the color numbers and the color names, in addition to some reference information right next to the color that tells you what weights of thread you can purchase in that color. So it's really helpful to know all that, have it at your fingertips. But let's move on a little bit more about this thread. Aurifil considers themselves the cotton experts. So you're going to see very little that they do that's not cotton. They offer 8 unique cotton thread offerings, including a 3-ply thread and a 6-strand divisible floss, which we're not going to talk much about today because we're focusing on those threads that you can throw on your machine. But the ones that they do produce that are 2-ply threads are an 8-weight thread, which is very heavy, and an 80-weight thread, all the way up through to 80-weight thread, which is very fine. And we're going to look at each one of these in a couple of projects you can do with each one, how to adjust your machine, what needles to use, that types of stuff is what we're going to cover today. Yeah, hopefully it's really helpful for your viewers. Remember when you're looking at the weight of a thread that the higher the number weight, then the thinner or the finer the strand is. So an 80-weight thread is going to be one of your finer threads. An 8-weight thread is going to be a very thick thread. So almost like a pearl cotton you can think about when you're thinking of the heavier end. It's also important to remember, though, that weight is measured at a single strand. And this gets kind of confusing for folks because, as it was for me, probably maybe 12 or 13 years ago when I started quilting, I was asked to go out and purchase 50-weight thread to learn how to hand applique. So I went to the quilt shop actually, and I purchased 2 different brands. They didn't have any brand specifics when I took this class. And I purchased 2 different brands of 50-weight thread. I got into class and realized one brand was thicker than the other. Imagine like sitting down to stitch with 2 products that look like they're supposed to be the same weight and finding one was thicker than the other. So the question came up back then, and I didn't really understand, but the weight itself is measured at the single strand. So on one of my threads that I purchased, it was 3-ply or 3 strands twisted together. And on the Aurifil that I purchased, it was only 2-ply or 2 strands twisted together. So the Aurifil was finer than the other brand because the other brand was 3-ply. And it took me a while, even after that, to wrap my head around. You have to look at the weight and the ply to really determine the thickness of the thread. That comes into play a lot when we're doing piecing and things like that, where we don't want bulk in our seams. One of the things that sets Aurifil aside is that there isn't a lot of bulk in the seams because it's a 2-ply thread. For most cases, it's a 2-ply thread. So let's talk about what Barbie mentioned a little bit ago was that Aurifil has different color codings, and that's what this slide is going to kind of share with everyone. From the very thickest thread, the 8-weight thread on your left, which has a white, it's a wooden spool, but it has a white indicator on top. It's painted white on top. And then all the way up to the finest thread, also on a wooden spool, that's a cherry wooden spool, is the 80-weight. But you can see the different colors of the spools as you go along. For example, here I have a 50-weight thread on an orange spool, and they're all differently color coded. The green spool is a 40-weight thread, and you can see that there on your screen. So what happens is once you get used to or maybe accustomed or memorize the colors of the spools, you never have to look at that label again to figure out what your weight is, right? You just have to look at the spool color. So I know by the fact that this one is green, that is 40-weight 2-ply. There's also a 40 weight 3-ply thread. This is probably the only time I'm going to mention it, but a 40 weight 3-ply that comes only on a cone, and it's a yellow cone. You see how the color coding is different. So even though they're both 40 weight, this one's 2-ply and this one is 3-ply. The 2-ply also comes on a cone, but I'm just showing you that the 3-ply only comes on a cone and doesn't get delivered on a large spool. So that color coding really comes in handy when you have so many spools in your cases and you're trying to figure out, you're looking for a 50 weight. You can kind of just look at the color of the spool and kind of target your 50 weight in there real easily if you keep your spools in their cases. So on the slide also at the bottom is just an indication of machine stitched, like a decorative stitch, where you stitch with the different thicknesses. So you can see the difference between 12 weight, the red spool, which is on the left, and all the way up to the 80 weight, which is on the right. Do you see that huge difference in thickness? Really makes a difference. It makes the 12 weight awesome for top stitching, but you probably wouldn't want to top stitch with the 80 weight, right? It's way too fine, unless you were maybe making an infant outfit or something, something miniature, then maybe that would come into play. Also note on the screen that the 8 weight that's on the far left that doesn't have any stitching underneath it is because today Aurifil doesn't recommend putting the 8 weight pearl cotton on your machine. So we didn't do a machine sample for that particular one, but that's the reason why you don't see one underneath there. Okay, moving on. Let's now talk about all those weights that you can put on your machine. The first one up is the red spool. It's the 12 weight thread. I noted at the top that it's 2-ply, and everything we're going to talk about today is 2-ply or 2 strands twisted together. The 12 weight on the red spool is great for top stitching. Can you see the beautiful top stitching on that sample? Actually, a double line of top stitching on that particular sample, and it makes such a difference on a bag or a garment, or maybe this is actually a quilt where we just wanted to pop out some different pieces of that quilt, make it pop. Also, 12 weight can be used for free motion quilting, for decorative machine stitches. Oops, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, for hand or machine embroidery. And also you could put it in the looper of the serger. It's a really beautiful Egyptian cotton, 2-ply Egyptian cotton. Let me show you another sample on the next slide. This is example of the 12 weight free motion quilting. So this was done on a home machine, and you have to go a little bit slower. You have to use a larger eye of a needle. So note there on the slide that the top stitch needle is almost always recommended for the heavier weights of Aurifil thread. And for those of you that aren't familiar with a top stitch needle, if you pick one up and you look at a top stitch needle, it has a groove all the way down the shaft of the needle. That groove allows your thread to sort of hide in that groove, not just around the eye, but all the way down the shaft. It allows your thread to hide in that groove, so that as you're going through multiple layers of applique, batting, backing, all those things, your cotton thread has a fighting chance to be protected during stitching. So that's why for heavier weights of thread, you're always going to see Aurifil recommending a top stitch needle. In this case, a 90-14 or 116. Remember that number, those two numbers combined, one's American and one's European number, they indicate the size of the eye of the needle. So when you're working with a really thick thread, if you put the thick thread through, say, a size 70 needle, you're going to shred it and break it. It's not going to survive, right, through a small-eyed needle. So you really need a large-eye needle to have success. Be sure to increase your stitch length if you can when you're using a heavier weight thread, because you're trying to show off the thread, right? You don't want to just have the thread be eensy-beensy stitches. You want that thread to kind of stretch out and show off that beautiful sheen. The other thing that's key when using the 12 weight in your machine is that you want to have a little bit heavier weight in your bobbin. Generally, we would recommend that you put Aurifil 50 weight in your bobbin for almost everything. But in this case, I find, at least on my machines, that they like it better when I have 40 weight in the bobbin when I'm working with 12 weight on top. So I have, it makes sense to have just almost sort of balancing your tension, right, Barbie? So you have a little bit closer thickness on top and in the bobbin. And there's a great reference card on the Aurifil website. It's called the Aurifil Thread Reference Card. I'll bring it up now because a lot of what I'm going to chat with you about today, a lot of that information is summarized on the back side of this thread reference card. It talks about all the different weights, what machine needle in size, what hand needle in size, and what to put in the bobbin. So you can get that under Aurifil.com under Aura World Resources. So just so you know, that's out there. Okay,
Cool.
great. So any questions on this one, Barbie? We good?
No, I think we're okay.
All right, let's move on to talk about the 28 weight thread. Now we're getting a little bit thinner. So we started with 12, we're going to 28, a little bit thinner, higher number. The 28 weight thread comes on a gray spool, looks sort of like this one. This one's all unwound, so it's a little bit messy, but it's a gray spool. Personally, I love to free motion quilt with the 28 weight thread on a home machine. You can also use it on a long arm. It also makes a beautiful decorative machine stitching. So if you have one of those fancy Berninas that stitch all those beautiful stitches, you can just pick a nice decorative stitch and do some beautiful decorative stitching with it. You can use it for hand or machine embroidery, and you can use it for bag making. It's got some good strength to it. So bag making would work really well with the Aurifil 28 weight too. These are just the few of the things that you can do with the different weights of thread. Let me go on to the next slide and show you some details. Top stitch needle. Now again, we're using that top stitch needle because of the groove all the way down the shaft. And then also you could use a 90-14 top stitch, should be plenty big enough when you have 28 weight on top. And then you can put Aurifil 50 weight in the bobbin from here on out, pretty much that 50 weight in the bobbin, because the 50 weight in the bobbin has the, it's actually the most cost-effective weight to buy of Aurifil. And because it's only a 2-ply thread, you can fit a lot of that fine 2-ply thread in your bobbin. So it seems like you have an endless bobbin going all the time. The main thing when you're playing with Aurifil 28 weight thread is just to have fun with it. The little sample that we're showing there, I don't know, Erin, if you want to go full screen again for this. I'll try to show this in the thing. Thank you. This little sample was done with the Aurifil 28 weight thread. This was stitched out on a featherweight, so it's kind of fun to just take a little sample and stitch it right out on the featherweight.
Really pretty.
Isn't it pretty? The 28 weight thread just has some really good chunk to it. It really makes a defined stitch. So if you want your thread to take center stage, it's a great option, and work wonderful for top stitching, wool applique, so many other choices. So thank you for that, Erin. If you could flip me back.
Yes.
Awesome.
We have a question. Caroline wanted to know, is this cheat sheet available on a website? So if you could repeat that for her.
You betcha, Barbie. So this thread reference card that I mentioned earlier is available on Aurifil.com. If you slide over to the right across the top, I think it's under Aura World. And then there's a column called Free Resources. So under the Free Resources, it's called the Thread Reference Card. And there's also a brochure out there, a digital color card, and a wool color card out there as well. So you can get this information. The best part is the back side. I absolutely love it because it tells you all the needles, the size of the needles, what to put in your bobbin, what you can do with each weight of thread. It's a great card to have at your fingertips. So now we're going to get a little bit thinner. Let's talk about Aurifil 40 weight 2-ply. Here I'm showing you some machine embroidered freestanding lace embroidery with Aurifil 40 weight, and it was using a variegated collection. So you can see how the colors in the butterflies change. This particular sample was done by a Bernina ambassador, Kate Toney, and it was using the thread that Sarah Thomas had picked out for her collection. So this is all 40 weight 2-ply. That's the one that I had mentioned. Oops, there's a typo on there. That's the one I had mentioned earlier, was on the green spool, not gray. So it says gray spool at the top, but don't believe everything you read on the internet, okay? Because that is absolutely not right. It comes on a green spool, the 40 weight thread. And it was created, as I mentioned earlier, 40 years ago for multi-head embroidery machines in Italy. They were doing high fashion, fine linen, car interiors, just a lot of really fun stuff with this thread. And like I said, it was being only delivered on a really large cones, and it was delivered for these multi-head embroidery machines. So it's so awesome that they took that same thread, repackaged it, and now we can put it on our machine embroidery our machine embroiderers, and also use cotton thread. So if you're making anything that is ever going to go in the oven, in the a hot pad, or in the microwave, or anything like that, you want to make sure you have a cotton thread, and this is the perfect choice for that. So as I mentioned,
Cool.
machine embroidery and embellishments, bag and garment sewing, because that 40 weight has that little bit extra strength to it. And it has, a lot of people love to use it for the rope bowls and rugs. They use the Aurifil 40 weight. They think it's just that strength is just right for that. Then we have a lot of fiber artists that use it. They use it to collage quilt between their pieces. They use it to develop manes and tails, and to put eyebrows and eyelashes on things, and use it for so many different things. It can also be used by hand, and you can use it by machine for quilting. So let me move on and tell you about the tips for the 40 weight. Oh, this slide is right. 40 weight green spool. It says a top stitch needle size 80-12. And of course, these are just general recommendations. Know that when you get on your machine, you're going to kind of test drive things, see how it works, see how you like it, and adjust appropriately, because we all know we have machines that have minds of their own, and they
Yes.
can be temperamental, right? From day to day, they can be pretty temperamental. So when you're using Aurifil 40 weight on your machine, we recommend putting Aurifil 50 weight in your bobbin, because you can put a lot of that fine 2-ply thread in your bobbin. And there's just so many uses for Aurifil 40 weight. In this particular sample that I'm showing you, that was done by Vivian Doan, Vivian used the 40 weight in a sashiko machine, a machine sashiko, and kind of stitched out the beautiful edges on this particular bag that she made.
That's
Okay,
cool.
let's move onward and upward to thinner thread. We're talking about the Aurifil 50 weight thread on the iconic orange spool. And for those of you that are out there today, if you're not using 50 weight in your machine top and bobbin, I just beg you, go out, get some. You're going to love it. You're never going to turn back. Your machine's going to love it. Let me tell you
Yep.
one more thing, right? Do you use it too, Barbie?
Yes, all
Yeah.
the time.
And your machine generally loves it. One of the reasons that machines love Aurifil so much is because before they're put on this wooden spool, and not this wooden spool, but the deliverable spool that they come on, they actually are run through a paraffin oil bath. So they take the thread, it comes out off of these big cones. Let's see if I have one here. This is a giant cone. Whoopsie, better get in front of the
Wow.
camera. This is part of the cone that goes through the production process. This is 1 kilo of thread. When they're taking it off of this large cone and putting it on the deliverable spools, they pass it literally through a bath of paraffin oil. And that paraffin oil lubricates your thread, reduces the lint even more, and it makes it just glide through your sewing machine with ease. So in case you're wondering why your machine loves Aurifil so much, it's because of that paraffin oil bath. So keep
That's
that in
cool.
mind. Yeah, it's awesome. The 50 weight thread is considered the all-purpose thread weight. It's just so versatile. You can do so many things with it. I've noted just a few things that you can do. You're piecing in your bobbin. So not just for piecing bobbin, but for fiber arts bobbin, and for machine embroidery bobbin. For all of your bobbins, the 50 weight comes in so handy. English and foundation paper piecing. Most people do English paper piecing by hand, but some people actually do it in their machine as well. And the 50 weight is so fine that you can just basically make your stitches disappear for your English paper piecing, regardless of whether you're doing it by machine or hand. Foundation paper piecing works wonderful too, because when you're foundation paper piecing, a lot of times you have a lot of different seams coming together, can get a little bulky there. You want to get your wooden clapper out and make sure those seams press flat. When you have the Aurifil 50 weight top and bobbin, you have no problem at all with your seams pressing really flat. The other thing that I love to use it for, and that's recommended for, is machine applique. You can do the tiniest of stitches and have that machine applique disappear, or you could do a nice blanket stitch and a double stitch on your machine and have it look really pretty, just a really beautiful sheen around your machine applique. You can also free motion quilt or walking foot quilt with it. You can do decorative machine stitches and embellishments. So if you've done any of these things with the Aurifil 50 weight before, I'd love to know that in the comments. We certainly do love this 50 weight thread. This particular piece that we're showing you was machine pieced by Wendy Shepard. Wendy uses Aurifil 50 weight across the board. As a matter of fact, she's the reason why I started using Aurifil about 12 years ago, because she's a good friend of mine. And when Wendy started using it, it's like, okay, I'm all in on that, because Wendy has that engineering brain that I love so much. She's always investigating things. So got to have that. Here's another little sample that was done with Aurifil 50 weight. In this case, you don't have, when you have 50 weight in your top thread, you can use a really small needle. A Microtex sharp needle would work fine. 75, 11 or larger would be perfect. You don't need a top stitch needle anymore because it's a really fine thread. And then also we always recommend that you put 50 weight in the bobbin. And this was just a small piece that was free motion quilted with Aurifil 50 weight. And you can see just a little bit of the decorative machine stitches next to the quilting. And that was all done with Aurifil 50 weight as well.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Isn't it pretty? I mean, we can do so many things with that lovely 50 weight thread. Okay, let's move on. This is the finest weight thread. This is the 80 weight. And the 80 weight thread comes on a cherry wooden spool. And I'm not sure I have one sitting here right next to me. A spool that looks a little bit like this, but this is floss. So it's a cherry wooden spool. And that's the only way it comes delivered today. Was originally developed to be used for fine handwork. But what Aurifil found out over the years was that people love to use it in their machine. So a lot of people are using it for machine embroidery, machine applique, machine quilting, and embellishing via machine. This particular sample was by Janine Heschel. She does machine creations, machine fiber art creations with all Aurifil thread. So she uses a lot of 40 weight, but this particular design, which you can see is really small, was done with the Aurifil 80 weight thread in the colors that she has outlined there. Just really, really beautiful work. Here's another little heart that was done with the Aurifil 80 weight. Again, a small needle, 7511, Aurifil 50 weight in the bobbin. And I have this heart here with me. And I think if we could flip over to just the screen again. This is the heart. I don't know if that my camera is focusing on that for you, is it?
Yeah, that's beautiful too.
Really small. So you can see how fine, you know, how detailed you can get with the Aurifil 80 weight thread when you're using it on your sewing machine. And before we flip away, let me grab a couple of these other samples that we just looked at. Here's the sample that we just looked at that was the 50 weight thread. It's very small, but it kind of gives you an idea of how you can combine different weights of thread. You have the 50 weight in the center for the free motion, and then some decorative machine stitching out around the edges of it up here, I guess is where it is. And in this particular sample, there was also a little bit of Aurifil floss, just kind of hand stitched in there. Let me show you that other little heart if I have it here. Let's see, do I? Oopsie. Oh, here it is. Here's the, I already showed you this little 28 weight heart. And then a little bit more top stitching with that 12 weight thread. I brought a sample to show you with that. This little pillow was made with Aurifil, mostly 40 weight thread for the quilting in the center, but around the outside edges, I actually used the 12 weight thread to top stitch in all those stripes. So it really comes out beautiful. Can you see the sheen? I don't know if you can see the sheen in the camera or not, Barbie, but
no, I can't, but the stitches are beautiful.
Yeah, the stitches just look so pretty. That's the 12 weight thread. And then this is another 28 weight thread. This is on the gray spool. I love to doodle quilt on my home machine, but this particular one was done on a long arm machine. So the 28 weight thread works really great on a home machine, or you can put it in your long arm. You may just have to, again, increase your stitch length a little bit, slow down a little bit, because it is a heavier weight thread. But look at the definition that you get.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Stitches.
Yeah, and that wool batting comes in handy as well. Yeah.
We have a question. Sure. They wanted to know, can you use 80 weight in the bobbin as well?
That's a great question, Sandy. You can use 80 weight in the bobbin, but honestly, because it comes on such a small spool, I love to just use my 50 weight because the 50 weight's more cost effective, but there's no reason why you can't put the 80 weight in the bobbin as well. It works wonderfully. It's just a matter of whether dollars and cents wise, you want to take your 80 weight thread that you just have on that little spool and put it in your bobbin. But if you have like a miniature piece, I know a lot of folks that make like really miniature pieces and they put them in, jewelry pieces, earrings that are so tiny. You would definitely want to use the 80 weight in the bobbin for that. Yeah, it works great in the bobbin. Oh, and Karen, you're saying you usually use 40 weight for piecing. Nothing wrong with that, right? Because that 40 weight and the 50 weight, because they're 2-ply, they're so fine, and they work. They're really interchangeable. The 50 weight just being slightly thinner than the 40 weight. But hey, if you're comfortable with the 40 weight, I think it's a great way to go. This particular quilting was done with the Aurifil 40 weight. Whoops, see if I can get it right for the camera. The little swirls there were done with the Aurifil 40 weight. It makes a really nice little touch without being too overwhelming. And then there were a bunch of other little weights used to make the tree, but it was a lot of fun to kind of just stitch all that out. So there's some samples. So if we go back to the slideshow, I think I just have a few of the bundles that you guys have available coming up. Yeah. We can talk about these, or I can just slide through these slides. Some of the great things that Aurifil has done just recently was put together these two, what we call thread exemplars. And they're basically samplers of all the different weights I just talked about in one package. And I love that because I'm a programmer by trade, retired now, thankfully. Now I just get to play on my sewing machine. But what I love to do is investigate how different things work and how I can accent my projects, my quilts, my wall hangings, my table toppers with different weights. So this is a great way of going about it with the thread exemplars. You can see that there's all the different weights, plus there's Aurifil floss, and there's also Aurifil wool in there. So you get all the different weights plus a wool and a floss spool. And you can choose a warm or a cool collection. Very great options. Also, the necessities collection. This is one of my favorites. If you love to use neutrals for your piecing and your bobbin, the necessities collection is a great way to go because you can choose, your taupey, your white, or your off-white, your gray. If you want to use black, if you're stitching like a really dark batik, maybe you want to use that really dark black color. So this is all Aurifil 50 weight 2-ply. There's a lot of yards on these spools of threads. That's something I didn't mention earlier. Aurifil, because it's 2-ply, everything I've shown you today is 2-ply. The amount of thread that you get on a 2-ply spool is almost double what you're going to get on a 3-ply thread of the same size. So when people look at the pricing structure with Aurifil and they go, oh, it's a little pricier than what I'm used to buying. You got to make sure you look at the bottom of the spool, look at the yards or the meters that you're getting, because you're getting so much more thread on a spool of Aurifil.
A long ways.
Right? A long ways. Yes. And so let me just show you one other
Karen, slide. I have another question.
Sure.
Someone wanted to know, can you use 50 weight? Can the 50 weight be used on long arm quilting?
It can, absolutely. A lot of quilters use it on long arms. I would generally say, as an educator with Aurifil, what I would generally say, though, is I would base it based on the type of quilt you're quilting on a long arm. So if I'm going to do like a really large bed quilt, like a utility quilt, the kids, the dogs, the neighbors, the husband, whoever, the partner is jumping up and down on the quilt all day, I might choose to go a little bit heavier on my thread. I might choose to use a 40 weight in the long arm. And there's also, of course, what I mentioned earlier, the 40 weight 3-ply that comes only on a cone, but the 50 weight will run through the long arm. What you have to remember with a 50 weight, whenever you're switching from maybe a poly or a 3-ply thread, is that because it's a 2-ply thread, you may have to dial back your tension a little bit. And also putting the cotton thread in the bobbin is really helpful. Folks love to use a lot the pre-wound bobbins that are often polyester, and polyester doesn't play well with cotton. Polyester doesn't give, and cotton gives a little bit. Polyester is just going to be really firm and hard and never break. So you might find that it, wreaks a little bit of havoc with your cotton threads. So take that into consideration if you're going to try putting something on the long arm. I hope that was helpful.
Yes.
Great. So the necessities collection is a great 4-spool collection. I think the final slide I have then, Barbie, is the 45 spool best collections. And I know that your team has some pricing and stuff to share with the consumer. And one other tip, if we want to just, well, let me talk about these best collections. These are like the best of the best colors of each of the weights that we've talked about. So you have the 12 weight, 28 weight, 40 weight, 50 weight, and 80 weight. And if you are like, for me, the 80 weight for handwork, I do a lot of hand applique, needle turn applique. The 80 weight is just something I absolutely adore. You can also do like really invisible machine applique with 88. So you can 80 weight. You can put that 80 weight on top, put 50 or 80 in the bobbin, and do really tiny little blanket stitch, just a tack stitch, and you can do all the applique you want and have no one needs to know that you didn't do it by hand. You did it by machine. It works out so well. So get your applique foot on there and get busy with that. So these are the 45 spool best collections. We love them. I love the fact that they come in a linen storage box. So the box itself is literally linen on the outside and has a beautiful Aurifil stamp on it. And you're like, when you get your threads out, you just want to pet them and talk to them all day. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. And Erin, if you want to kill that slideshow, I have one more tip to show your viewers before we go, and that is about the large spools of thread. I don't think I've said this already. When you open up a new large spool of Aurifil thread, when you take that shrink wrap off of it, I usually, to get the shrink wrap off, I poke a hole in the top or the bottom, and I peel the shrink wrap away. And then you start looking at the spool going, I can't find the beginning of it. I can't find the beginning of it. You start like, okay, what level glasses do I have on for my readers? Do I need new readers? But the thing to remember always with the large spools is if you just get a good grip on the top and you use your other hand and just twist that flange, the bottom flange comes right off. And this is always where you're going to find the beginning of the spool, is right underneath that bottom flange. 99.9% of the time, your beginning thread is going to be wound under that bottom spool. So when you're done using your thread, you can wrap it back around there, put the flange back on, and remember, when you're putting the flange back on, don't push it on there too tight. Like oftentimes I'll get inquiries about the threads. It's breaking occasionally. I can't figure out why it's breaking. And the first thing I often suggest is loosening that bottom flange, Barbie, because if you push it on there too tight, it could restrict the thread only when it's coming off the bottom of the spool. So, you're stitching along and everything's going really well, and all of a sudden break, and you don't know why, right? And it could just be when it reaches the bottom of the spool, if the flange is putting a lot of pressure on it. The other thing I love to tell people, especially I think on the Bernina, is a good example. If you're mounting your thread horizontally, is that right? Horizontally, and you have to have a spool, a pin holder here to keep your spool on the pin. So when you put that cap on there, make sure you use a cap. Whoops, I've almost logged myself out. Make sure you use a cap that's really small, just only as big as the opening on the spool, because you don't want your cotton threads to touch anything but the thread guides on your machine. You don't want it to be touching a big spool cap. You want to make sure it's clean and clear to go all the way down to your needle. So just another little tip for your followers.
A good tip.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions out there before we get on to see the great deals you're offering?
Yeah, has there been any more questions? No?
Nothing yet, but
No.
I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
great.
Yeah.
Go to the first section of pricing.
Okay, we're going to show the pricing.
Ooh, great. That's the Aurifil thread exemplar. What a great price.
Yes.
Love that. And that's the
Try
cool
'em all out.
cool colors. Aren't they beautiful?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Eye candy.
Eye candy for sure. Ooh, and there's that's that warm collection.
That's beautiful too. I want it all.
I think that'd be beautiful for a fall landscape.
Oh,
right
yeah.
Great pricing.
Yeah, it is. That's a great price right there too.
Ooh, yes, it is. The necessities collection is so great to have. You've got all your neutrals and your white, your black. Really great
Yeah.
to have in your toolkit for your piecing. I noticed a lot of folks saying that they were piecing with Aurifil, so it's a great option to have.
Yeah, I do that too.
Carrie.
Oh, wow.
The best selection 50 weight.
Yes.
Woo! Talk about wanting to pet some thread.
Oh,
Isn't
I
that
know.
beautiful?
Yes. That makes you
Oh,
want to sew.
yes. And if you're an EPPer or do any handwork at all, I mean, that's
Mhm.
such a lovely collection just to choose for whatever applique or paper piecing you're doing too.
For
So many
sure.
beautiful colors.
Mhm.
Works awesome in the machine. Woo! There's that 12 weight collection. Look at all those beautiful top stitches you could do.
Yeah,
All
that is
those lovely
beautiful.
colors. Yeah.
Puts me in the mood to sew right now.
I know. Oh, look at that 80 weight. Oh, so many. I
I
can see a whole
Yeah.
bouquet of feathers coming out with that 80
Oh,
weight, right?
yeah. Yes, it's beautiful.
Beautiful stuff. And there's the 28 weight. Lovely on the gray spool. Free motion quilting is my friend, and I just love using the 28 weight for that. Just works so well. If you have any folks that do hand wool applique or even
Mhm.
machine wool applique, I don't know if any of your friends in the shop do that, but if they stitch wool down, this 28 weight works so beautifully on machine for that.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah,
These are great prices.
these are fantastic prices. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Cool. And we'll drop ship any of the orders from today. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a special, I think, with the program, right? That
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
items will be drop shipped right from
Mhm.
Aurifil, so right to your consumers so they
Cool.
can
Yes.
enjoy those things right away, have them in their hands and start stitching.
Yeah, makes me want to sew. And if I could find an excuse to go home right now, I would do
Well,
it.
me too, I'm home, but I guess I need to get busy here.
Oh, I could just sew all the time. I love it.
Mhm. Mm.
Well, thank you so much on this education of threads.
You're very welcome. Thank you so
Very
much for having
helpful.
me.
Yes,
All right.
yes. And if you want to stay on, we're going to go over a few things, and then we're going to do our drawing for our $50 gift card.
All right, great.
So, what I want to mention is that we have that 3-day event coming up in January. So, it's like a sewing retreat. You know, it's a special gift you give to yourself, and you're going to learn a lot. We've got a lot of important people that are going to be here. We have Sylvain, Pam Mashey, Connie Fenders, and then there was, or Fanders, and then there was another one too, a Pam.
Debbie Lashbrook. You said
Debbie
Pam.
Lashbrook. Okay. Yeah. So make sure Amanda Murphy, make sure you get signed up. We're closing down the store, and Veronica and Ralph never do that. So that's how big this event is going to be. And that's January 9th through the 11th. It is filling up fast. So make sure if you're interested in this that you get online or call us and sign up for this, because you don't want to miss out on all this education.
There's some
There's
really great
always room
instructors
to
there.
learn. Oh,
Mhm.
yes. I'm really
Awesome.
excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I mean, we're going to have so many classrooms going on, and we're serving lunch and snacks. So this is a gift to give to yourself. So
Yeah.
after you've taken care of everybody else over the holidays, now it's time for yourself. So make sure you get signed up. And what is our secret word today?
I was thinking spool.
Spool. Perfect. Yeah. So type in spool, and we're going to see who the winner is. We'll give you about 2 minutes to get it all signed or all text in. So start texting SPOOL.
Yeah,
And make
Barbie,
sure
I
your
wanted
phone
I'm
checks the
sorry, go
spelling.
ahead,
Yes.
hon.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Karen.
I just wanted to mention
Mhm.
I've seen Pam and Amanda in action before in the
Mhm.
classroom, and though they are just
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
So,
Oh, they are.
yeah, what a
Yeah.
great retreat.
Mhm. And your knowledge of all that thread today is so helpful.
Oh, good.
It
Glad it was
just gets my
helpful.
mind going for experimenting even more.
Yes, I love to experiment.
Yes. Everybody is typing it in. Mhm.
They're going to win a $50 gift card. Somebody is, huh?
Yes, yes, which is
Wow,
really nice. And if
that's
they're
good.
not able to come in, we mail it to them, so that helps too. And you know, you can always spend it on our website too, can't you? Yeah. So no problem there. And also, if you're not familiar with our website, make sure you go online and check it out because we have some wonderful deals on there. And our classes are on there also. So you can, and if you use the computer to go to our website, then you're going to get to see pictures of our classes. And that helps a lot too. I know I'd rather see the pictures than just the title of what it is.
Absolutely.
All right.
How many entries do we have?
We have 38.
38?
I think Phyllis
Uh-huh.
did it in all caps, so we can.
Oh,
talk
okay.
to
So it's
Phyllis.
a capital S, lowercase Pool. She did it in capital because she really wants to win. Okay, good.
All right. Any last entries?
Let's see. How many do we have now?
38.
38. We'll give them a half a minute. Let's get 40 entries in. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go to Aurifil's website and get that information on the threads and needles.
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, Barbara, you could download it, maybe have the shop laminate it and get it
Oh,
out there
most
by those
definitely.
beautiful
Yes,
displays that you have. I hear
that
you
would
have a
help
couple of
so
beautiful
much.
displays.
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
Yes. It's just eye candy, you know, it just makes
it,
you want to buy.
it is. They're really nice
Mhm.
displays.
Yes.
It's a nice
Ready?
reference card to have
Okay.
there.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Cool. All right, let's do it. Get that wheel spinning. Roseanne Lascano. Yay.
Yay!
Yeah, she's got the cutest little Yorkie too. So we love it when she brings her baby in. So
Aw,
congratulations, Roseanne. We can't wait to see you. And thank you again, Karen, for everything today.
you're
You
welcome.
know,
Thank you for having me.
yes, knowledge is power. And
It
you have
is.
really given us a lot of knowledge today. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And
Take care.
yes, you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
And I guess we will see everybody next Thursday. Thanks for watching.